Senate doesn't trust AARO. AARO requested to water down the UAPDA 2025 bill. A wave of public discourse gets the bill passed. Lou Elizondo's book, 2 documentaries with new faces. More credible people will be confirming what David Grusch has said. That's a summary from Michelangelo, but it is from Matthew Pine's interview. It was a big one, and it lends us to everything that we're going to kind of be talking about here today on UAP Tuesday. Lou Elizondo's book is coming out. There have been leaks. There's all these other things that are happening, but inside of that, apparently, it is the start of the new disclosure plan with all the information that is apparently inside of this book. Speaking of disclosure, speaking of moving things forward, we keep saying on this show we don't think that there should be hearings until after a president is determined, but it seems like those who are making it happen say, no, it's going to happen. Representative Luna is one of those people, said, no, it's happening. It's going to happen sooner than later. So we'll discuss that. That's that and more on today's episode of UAP Tuesday. If you're brand new to the channel, basically what we do here on Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff, we talk about a topic Monday through Friday, and on Tuesdays we have our hour-long show. Missed it last week, but I was pretty busy, but we're back today. It's myself and Pavel here talking about all things in the world of the phenomenon. So make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't done that already, please do it. We're looking to get to around 30,000 subscribers, and I think if you hit that button, you can get us there. Okay, so let's get to this and more today on UAP Tuesday. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to UAP Tuesday here on the Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff channel. I appreciate it. Every Tuesday we do our hour-long kind of rehash of all the stuff going on in the news and brand new stories that might be dropping, and dive a little deeper into it than we do on the daily videos. So joining me today, you see him a lot on the news pieces. It's Pavel. Hello, Pavel. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we spoke yesterday, and as you said, are you going to be covering this news? And I said, I think I'm going to save it for the UAP Tuesday because I just feel we can dive into it a little bit more, where we could have talked about it for a bit in the news piece itself, but there's just a lot going on right now, and there seems like there's a little bit more rumblings happening with everything, especially the stuff that we're going to talk about today. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I keep hearing a lot of the people that high up on this effort of disclosure, they keep mentioning some names that they mention them behind the scenes, but they don't want to say them in public, and that really gets on my nerves.
So what do you mean by that, though? When you say there's certain names that are being judged, are you talking about people that are going to be involved in this, that are going to come out and talk? Like,
I am
what do you mean?
talking about the big wigs mainly, like the Corbells, the Ross Coultharts, the main experiencers who are doing this, like J. Christopher King, for example. People who are like teasing what Commander Fravor and Brian Graves teased last year in one of Graves' podcasts, the Merge podcast. They talked about a documentary that is supposed to be like game changer, but nobody's like giving any details really, because you know me, I ask around everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah,
Mom's
it's
the
happening,
word.
but I can't tell you anything. And I'm like, dude, it's been a year since they teased it. Why can't you say anything?
I think they're probably nervous that it'll get leaked or something will happen, and then it'll kind of fall to SH, because it seems like that's.
I did hear that since it's being brought up so much in the last week, they think that they're maybe gonna announce it already, like over the next couple of weeks.
Announcing what?
A documentary that is supposedly happening, that is coming out at around the same time the James Fox documentary is coming out.
Okay.
And James Fox did already report in his Twitter that he already delivered the whole finished piece, so it's coming out too.
Okay,
the program.
So we're gonna have 2 big documentaries apparently, and that's, I would assume, also part of this planned disclosure.
Yeah, it's part of that.
All right. Well, let's start with this first before we get into that stuff. Let's get into this actual interview here by Matthew Pines, who is the director of intelligence at SentinelOne, and he's a national security fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. So Michelangelo, who does a great job of summarizing these things, posting part of it. So I'm going to play this long clip that Mike put out. And this is a 6-minute clip. So I want people to buckle up for this 6 minutes. And then afterwards, Pavel and I will be back.
And the Senate, specifically Senator Rounds and Senator Schumer, went to the Senate floor after their bill basically got gutted, and they were not happy. And they gave a scripted colloquy on the Senate floor, like an 8-minute speech where they had written together, each had parts. And they basically said, we're not giving up on this. In the interest of transparency and accountability, we're going to push for, this UAP Disclosure Act in the future. And that's what they did. They came back, and after all this conversation, they said, no, we're going to double down. And they didn't trust the AARO, the office inside the Pentagon that had been set up nominally to kind of investigate this stuff, but has basically been essentially doing a cover job, right? Which is what you would expect, right? And the Senate's not buying it. And so they're like, and the AARO tried to basically kill this bill. Specifically, they went through and they tried to they gave the Defense Department the ability to kind of comment on the draft legislation. And actually just today came out like a version of the bill where they had the Pentagon was like, red line out all of references to technologies of unknown origin, biological materials, and then give the role that the Senate wanted to give to this independent review board. They wanted to give that role to AARO itself. So all the witnesses or powers, it's like, oh, you should just give it to this group inside the Pentagon to investigate the Pentagon, right? And so the Senate's not buying it, right? The Senate's doubling down on the definitions, and they specifically say that this legislation is necessary because credible evidence indicates that UAP records exist that have not been subject to mandatory declassification as a result of an overbroad interpretation of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954 and a misapplication of transnuclear foreign intelligence, which is, inside the Atomic Energy Act, there's provisions to classify special nuclear materials and intelligence on foreign nuclear capabilities that we gather that are not subject to the same sorts of disclosure and declassification procedures. So that's basically been the argument, is that we've been compartmenting these programs, in that apparatus of secrecy since the Manhattan Project. So we're in this position now where coming into the summer, there's going to be some major things happening. So the objective essentially of the things that are going to happen the rest of this year is to get as close to the full package that's in the UAPDA passed, right? So that the next president will essentially preside over the nominations and then review the declassification and disclosure determinations of the review board. Only the president will have essentially the final veto, right, over those determinations. The review board has to provide like a UAP disclosure campaign plan. And there's all these restrictions on like what the agencies, if they say that we don't want this to be declassified, there have to be like specific reasons published. So there's a lot of stakes coming on like this bill that's going to be now reintroduced as part of the FY25 NDAA, and that will likely come to a similar sort of contention in conference committee later this year, probably November, December, where behind closed doors will be a debate about how much of this package will actually make it into law. Because the NDAA is one of those bills that always gets passed, right? And so this is the fight that's happening now. And so there's going to be a wave of public discourse that's going to start next month in August that is designed to generate such momentum to push the UAPDA across the line. So in particular, what's going to start this will be a book that's coming out by a gentleman named Lou Elizondo, who was kind of the original guy, started this all in 2017, helped get those videos out to the New York Times. He was a guy who he's a career, absolute boss inside the Pentagon. He was a member of what's called the Intelligence Support Activity, kind of like Delta Force, but would go behind enemy lines to like scout things out. He counterintelligence officer, counterterrorism officer, did a bunch of stuff, and it was tapped basically to run the sort of this UFO program inside the Pentagon in 2008. And so he's coming out with this tell-all book, basically, called Imminent in
title.
In August. Then there's going to be 2 documentaries coming out with people that no one's heard of yet that are going to make pretty eye-opening claims, and that those people will have the credentials to back those claims up.
Can you say what those claims are?
I mean, basically that everything David Grusch said in testimony is true.
So
right?
That they've retrieved craft.
Yes.
And that they've found like biological...
Yeah.
beings.
Essentially what the UAP says, which is that there are these legacy programs to retrieve and exploit, reverse engineer technologies of unknown origin and biological materials, those programs exist. Like the Senate legislation is premised on those programs existing. The purpose is to investigate those programs and to force the information and records and materials that they hold into a more formal and legitimate and accountable process, and then to disclose certain elements of those programs to the public. I think they want to do it.
And is there anything new that like Grusch didn't say that he's going to reveal?
So this is all about, again, Grusch. I don't think the job is to say anything new. It's to get more senior people to say basically the same thing.
Okay, so take it more seriously.
So David Grusch was sort of the first door opener to establish and into the discourse this concept of retrieved craft and biological materials. That was like the what? And you saw the people in Congress being like, what are you talking about? And then the Senate comes out with this bill that says biological materials, technologies of unknown origin, defines legacy programs. It ensures that nobody that's on this review board can be associated with those legacy programs.
What do you think biological materials means?
Bodies of non-human entities.
Aliens.
I don't know what you mean by aliens, but a biological creature
That didn't.
of a morphology that we don't recognize as being associated with any sort of phylogenetic tree.
It came from another planet.
Or has it been here forever?
There's other hypotheses.
Yeah, it's been here forever.
I mean, we are about to create synthetic life. We are thinking about engineering complex synthetic biological systems, biomechanical systems.
That's a big clip. That's a big clip. There's a lot said in there, Pavel, that is serious. Now, you covered this on your channel yesterday, too. What did you summarize out of what you heard in that particular clip?
I think that, first of all, we need to establish who Matthew Pines is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that don't really know who he is. And the company he runs works directly with people high up within the intelligence community and government, the executive branch. So he knows everybody doing this, and people who are really powerful within government that are not associated with this too. So the guy knows his stuff. I would put him on a similar place to, in terms of connections, to Jesse Michaels, for example.
Okay.
So he knows what's going on. And the thing is that I think that the most compelling part of what he just talked about was those two documentaries, and that one specifically, I think, because I've been hearing a lot about it. And you've been covering Lou Elizondo's book too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot in that book, which I haven't read, but I've heard some things that is very woo. And people, there's a lot of people that when they hear about like remote viewing and stuff like that, they immediately link it to ghosts and to stuff like it's not really provable, And I think that may hurt a little bit of whatever the effort Lou Elizondo is trying to make. But I don't know. I guess we need to have people more accustomed to the idea that these things have been paid for by the government to be investigated. And I think that's important to note, know?
Well, I think that's the main, what he said that stood out to me when they asked, they said, what new information is? He's like, it's not really about new information. It's just more people basically saying this is legit, and people with higher stakes, because David Grusch, not that he's not legit, but he came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew who he was until he came out there, and then they vetted him. And, majority of people who actually paid attention said this guy is legit and has held like a good position, and he seems to be, most people in high positions that have talked about him say it seems like David Grusch is the real deal, and he hasn't really been proven. There are always people going to say, oh, he's phony, he's this, he's that, but if there would have been a lot more repercussions had he been a fraud, right? And they wouldn't keep putting so much weight into what he's doing and have all these people behind him if he was a fraud. So what this guy's saying is essentially, well, you know what we need to do? We need to get more people and bigger people, and that's what it seems like it's going to happen. Well, at least that's what he's saying. It seems like it's going to happen, that more people are going to be kind of saying, yes, those bodies, this, and that's when the people are going to go, the average person going to go, wait, who's saying that now? Okay, so here is that clip that Pavel is talking about. Let me play it for you.
I believe the coup de grace will be coming sometime this year with someone that everyone would recognize if they watch, if they paid attention to the news, you would know this person.
Yeah, so there's that clip. And it's basically someone really big is going to be saying it. So who is that person later on this year? Like, who's that person? Like, if it's going to be, because is it, if it's by the end of this year, is it Biden? If it's the end of this year, is it Trump? Is it the end of this year? Is it, who's big in Obama? Is it someone big in because everyone will know it and basically say, yeah, that's true. Like who at that level that everyone would know is someone, who do you think it is?
I think that would make sense because
Who, Obama?
I think that would make sense of who it is. Has to do with how much stigma there is still associated with this topic, right? So I don't think it's going to be a former president or a president. I think that's too high up still because there's still some stigma attached to this. But I think the highest we can get is someone in the White House who is currently employed there, who is constantly inside the Oval Office with the president. So there are a few options there.
Okay.
And I've been hearing two names. I can't say them because I've been seeing them in public in Twitter. I haven't asked people who are in the know of this. I'm just going to say the two names.
You think it could be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one of them is already very well known within the topic. That is John Podesta. That is one of them. But I don't think that if he came forward, it would have a huge impact, to be honest with you. The other name is a lot more interesting in my view because he's currently the White House National Security Advisor for the president. So that would be Jake Sullivan.
Yeah, if you Jake Sullivan would make more sense. But now the question is this. The question is when he is talking about, it's a name that everybody would know. Now, when he's saying that, is he referring that everyone would know who's following the topic, everyone would know who's following politics, or everyone would know even if you're just a person on the street? Because a regular person on the street who doesn't pay attention to politics all the time is not going to know Sullivan.
Yeah, I would say that he, given that he's the National Security Advisor, people would pay attention.
Oh, yeah, it would.
Because he's talking directly in the name of the president.
100%. That's more of an announcement from the president than everything too. So like that's, I don't know. I think that it's something bigger if that's the case. Someone that's going to, because it's got to be. Look, Sullivan goes out there and says it, then you're not wrong. That it's like, oh, well, this is coming from the office of the president, and essentially the president is saying it. And then I guess the next question will be, well, why isn't the president just, confirming this? Because everyone's going to then say to the president before he takes off at the end of the year, hey, so is this is legit? We've actually found bodies. We've done this, and then that's something that I guess that's a way for Biden to do that. Now that he's stepping off, it's like, yeah, you say what you will about me and how maybe the thoughts you had in my presidency before I left. I let you know that we're not alone, and that we've actually found bodies. See you later. Good luck, anybody who's following that. It's like that's a way to walk off the court.
I think that maybe part of the reason this other documentary is not talked about too much, it's maybe because one of these people is going to be in it. And that's why it's so secretive. And it is coming from a person. I'm not going to say the name because I've been told that people who know who his name is, they're like, nah, they got really angry at me when I said it, even just in conversations, not in public.
So they're trying to keep it under wraps.
Yeah. But this person is very well known in Hollywood, the director of the documentary.
Okay.
It is not one of the biggest ones, but he's very well known. And the fact that he is so secretive about it, as I said, I think that either Sullivan or someone else who's even bigger, as you said, that I think we're going to get a testimony from one of these people in that documentary. That would be my guess.
I just can't. This is where it's like I go up and down with this thing, man, because it's like we have these topics that every day they're like, oh, we're getting this, we're getting that, we're getting this, we're getting like, yeah, sure we are, right? But then it's like then you start to get where it seems like the buzz is getting louder right now that I start to get more like hopeful that we're actually going to get bigger news and these other things that are happening. And this is someone who say no, because this is yet another person who is saying, okay, this is the plan that they have set forth. And they were talking about the Soul Foundation last year and the things that the planned disclosure. This is it. This is what's happening. And it goes back once again to the Schumer-Rounds bill and how important this thing is. And I wish that someone would ask the question to one of these people, because maybe they did inside this interview. I didn't see it, because I still don't know. And maybe we just get to see Bassett on the damn phone again, or even Laszlo or somebody, and ask him the question. What is different this year than last year? What is different? And is it maybe because he said, as he said in the beginning of that clip, he said, well, AARO was allowed to go through and redline. Maybe they're not allowed to go through and redline this time. Maybe they go, well, we don't want AARO involved in this time. And they say no. And AARO doesn't get involved in it and nothing gets blocked. Maybe that's how it happens. I don't know. I just want to know what's different this time around.
I think one of the main key points of this is if both AARO and Senator Turner, I think it is.
Yeah, Mike Turner, yeah.
He's the one of the people who blocked it.
Yeah.
He's from Ohio, Wright Patterson is there.
Yep.
So I think that if those two don't get involved this time or don't block it,
but why wouldn't they?
Have a much better chance.
I agree, but why wouldn't they? That's where I say it's like, well, yeah, we wanted you to block it last time, but this time let it go. It's like, why wouldn't he be involved? That's where I just get confused on it. And there are smarter people out there that have the answer to that question. I just don't know what it is. I don't know what that answer is. And I don't know, and maybe once we get closer, we'll start to realize and we'll say, hey man, the reason why that this happened and it's not getting blocked is because this moment they looked at it this time and said, we can't let that happen again. So in order to make sure it doesn't, these are the steps we put in front. So I don't know. It's very interesting when you hear all that stuff, though, guys. Like when you hear that conversation about more and more people saying, yes, we have to get behind Grusch, and more. And what we've always been saying is that people, not just Grusch, higher ups who are also saying, yes, this is the case. This is what happened. We know that this is factual, and getting it out in front of the news and having, because if it is this big name, or if it is, someone out there saying, who's working for the president, saying, yes, last year we had these hearings and we can confirm that all of those reports are true. That, if you don't put that on the news, the main news channels, that's irresponsible, and your news channel should be shut down. And
definitely.
It just, so that's how, if that happens, then those places should be investigated. But that I don't think would be the case, because they would know that. But anyway, so much. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think? Put your comments in there. Please tell me your thoughts. I got to know your thoughts on all of this. If you think that this is part of the plan, more talk that's going to go nowhere. I believe it when I see it, or no, this really seems like the buzz is real. Before we move on, I got to tell you guys, as I am always excited about new opportunities, new sponsors that we have. It's the reason we're able to do this show, guys. And if you want to support this show and you have the means to, I want to tell you about two of our wonderful sponsors today, and that is both BetterHelp and Rocket Money. Here it is. This episode of Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let me ask you, what are your self-care non-negotiables? What is it, that you never skip a leg day or therapy day? Because when your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Because even when we know what makes us happy, it is hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. Therapy is very important. I've been in that position, man, when I haven't talked and I've let things bottled up, and it is not a good thing. You got to talk to people. And we've had people on our show that have said, listen, we've needed to speak to people. We had an opportunity to, and BetterHelp has been there for a lot of people very close in my life. Because if you don't know, it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, it is flexible, and it is suited to your schedule. All you have to do is you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/DTE today. You get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/DTE. All right, before you get out of here, I got to tell you a good way to save money. And one way to save money is stop spending money on things you don't need. Like apps that you're like, oh, that app's going to be amazing. I'm going to use that app. I'll use it free and I'll never use it ever again. And then they charge you. That's what they do. They charge you every month. Well, that's where Rocket Money comes in. Rocket Money is a great service. It's a personal finance app, and it finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Most Americans think they spend around $62 a month on subscriptions. Yeah, right. The real number is close to $300. That is literally thousands of dollars a year, half of which probably have been forgotten about. So that is why I use Rocket Money, and I absolutely love them. Stop wasting money on things you don't even use. Cancel unwanted subscriptions today. Go to rocketmoney.com/DTE. That's rocketmoney.com/DTE. One more time, rocketmoney.com/DTE. All right, thank you again to our sponsors, BetterHelp, Rocket Money. As I mentioned, it's always good to talk to somebody if you need to, and it's always good to save yourself some money on unwanted subscriptions. So make sure you check out both those links in the description. Thanks again. Okay, so Pavel, let's move on, man, and I'm going to bring up this story here. All right, so this is from The One, and this is kind of carrying over to what we just said, and that is, if the end goal is to get the UAPDA passed in its most robust form, then Jake Sullivan stepping forward sometime in 2024 fits the bill via a UAP James post from 2023. Ross Coulthart says that the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has attended a Senate meeting where UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering programs were discussed before senators. So that would lend a little bit more, I guess, merit, Pavel, to what you're saying, that he was there, he's talking about this. And yes, reiterating, if he comes out and says it, I mean, that's pretty, like you said it yourself, that's pretty much the president saying, yeah, our office confirms this. This is what we've had our discussions. And now if that comes out before, that can answer my question, by the way. If Sullivan comes out and says it, and then they go to pass this, and then they start to get blocked. Like, no, we're not blocking it. The president's office just said this, it exists.
Yeah, and media outlets also can't do jack shit.
Right, yeah.
Because it's going to be the president. Like, if they don't cover it, it means that they're in on the other side, right?
But the fact that he was at meetings and he was there, like, it's getting more and more serious and more up the chain, right?
Yeah, and this gives a lot of credence to what Bassett has been talking about for many months. Like, Bassett is like, the only one who can do this is the president. And I've always thought of Mr. Bassett as a little bit too optimistic.
Yeah.
But now that this is coming out, I'm like, what if Bassett has been right this all time?
What he told me when we had him on the show, he told me, because I was bummed that it didn't get passed. He said it'll get passed next year or something along those lines. He's like he's going to keep going every year to try to do it, and then it leads up to this, and this. And he was very adamant in the fact that he knew that it would get passed, if not that time, this time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'd like to even go back and revisit a lot of the stuff that he said, because it does seem like that plan is in place.
Yeah. I would like to ask you something, though, because I've been struggling with some of my fellow researchers about this, because there's people who don't trust anything that the government is doing in terms of disclosure, right?
Of course.
We know we get those people, but I think that I support this, and I'm going to tell you why. I have never really believed that they're going to disclose completely, to be honest.
Like everything that's known? Of course not.
Yeah, because there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
All of these aerospace companies, they're not going to just sell their Lockheed Martin shares,
right,
and just like that, right? But I think that it's important to keep fighting, because unless we get that official confirmation, a lot of these people who are still skeptical about this, and people who don't even know what's going on, they don't want to pay attention to it, mainly because they're just living their lives. It's like it's too much sometimes. Just like last week, James Yandoli from Engaging the Phenomenon was speaking to Jim Semivan, who knows what's going on. He was a former director at the CIA, or a secretary, I think he was. And he talks about how disclosure is indigestible for a lot of people.
Sure.
And I think that that's important to talk about, in the sense that I believe that even if it's indigestible, for example, people who have kids like yourself, if this information comes out and it's become official, and it's really too much to take, what's the approach that parents are going to take with their children, for example, if this is made official?
Right.
I would like to know that, for example, from you. What would you do if
that's harder?
If that came about?
That's harder to say, because that's all hypothetical, right? It's like I don't know the answer to that question. I can't give you an honest answer because I don't know the information. It's like
because there's a lot of fear in terms of that.
Of course. Well, because
how,
well, look at the religious side of it. Your religion will be challenged depending on what it is, depending on what's revealed or how much is revealed. And there is absolutely not only there's so much that you can give information that I agree with you. You're not going to give everything up for a lot of different reasons. One, for the reason we're talking about right now, maybe the sanctity of or the way you want to keep society of, well, we still want people to have this. We just want people to know this particular stuff. We can tell you this and it doesn't challenge anything, right? Or maybe it does. I don't know. Or maybe it's technology that they don't want to give up. Who knows? I just feel in maybe it's a romanticized version in my head, but I just feel like I want to be alive when the world changes, and not in changes. And if you look at certain things, there are certain ways that the world has changed that we would say today were big moments for the good and for the bad. There have been moments in history that have been big moments. They would be insignificant to this moment. Insignificant, depending on what it is. But if it is what we think it is, or what it could be, or it potentially is hinted at, and the idea of, you're looking at all the stuff that's in Lou Elizondo's book with consciousness and things that humans are capable of that we haven't even potentially even locked into, and that type of stuff, because that would be next level stuff. But that's the type of thing that I wonder, because there is that one side of it that says, okay, if we have all these abilities and things that we can do, that we can teach human nature to do, what we haven't, because we're afraid that they A, wouldn't be able to understand it, B, only one particular side is able to do it. We don't want to share it with the rest of mankind. We just wanted to have it here. But if they decide against that and they say, no, we want to change society. We want society to know what humans are capable of. And we want to be able to do this, and this. And yeah, it's going to panic some people. It's going to change the economy. It's going to change these other things. But we think by doing it, we can benefit society and mankind for the next 1,000, 2,000 years. If that, who knows? That's very well. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But if it did, that's what I would welcome. That's the type of thing that I would hope for. Yeah. And maybe it's because I watched too many science fiction movies. But it's what I'd want to see.
And that's why I think it's important to support this and to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Because of those reasons you told me. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, man. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So, all right, and moving on to something else that is very relevant to all of this. So, following up once again, the Juan says, so Lou Elizondo's upcoming book is the start of a new UFO disclosure package. Now, I'm going to go to the first comment here, because I think it's also relevant to say, and it says, it's always tomorrow with these guys. After 7 years, I've heard it all, and the goalpost moved more than I can count. At this point, I have to think disclosure will never come, and this whole thing is simply a money grab. Okay, so let's start with the first thing, and that is the post that says, this is the start of this controlled disclosure that they're talking about. The book is supposed to be the first thing, and this leak comes. But there's a lot of stories in there that whether you think they're far-fetched or whatever they are, there are a lot of things that are put in there that Luke could get out there. So do you think that that's accurate to say that the plan for them is that this is part of their disclosure plan, this book?
Yeah, it's August 20th. That's the plan. There's been, as you know, leaks.
Yeah.
I think that was done. Initially, I thought it was done kind of like on purpose to give the book more credibility and like more eyes on it so they
Sure.
can buy it. But there's been some accusations being leveled against people within the UFO community for leaking the book, people who don't like Elizondo. I think that if people are open to whatever he's talking about here, because there's been only 60 pages leaked, there's a lot more he talks about, and some of that stuff is already pretty incredible. Like when he remote viewed people during the war. Uh, I think that even more important than the book, which is going to be very important, by the end of August, we're going to get the program. That's about around the time that I've already been told it's going.
All right, so
It's coming out.
That's James Fox. So James Fox posts, I just
Yeah.
spent a much needed week on a lake with family and friends after delivering the program. Starting to feel human again. This is my son riding on the board with me. A nice photo that he posts there. But okay, so the program. What does that insinuate? What does that mean? What's the program?
I think he's gonna talk to people who are inside of this program that David Grusch talked about, the crash retrieval program. We already heard about SANS, but when I asked James directly how much of a percentage of the film SANS was in, he said that less than 5%. So nothing really has been shown about the program other than what Mr. SANS came forward to talk about.
Right.
And I was also told that he's not removing Mr. SANS from the movie, but the people inside the program are what matters, and I think that's what James Fox is going to try and do. Because remember, guys, he's the one that makes the documentaries that are most believable about the subject, in my opinion. And I think this is gonna be probably the most important he's ever done. So,
Well, I'm also curious about, as we talk about Lou Elizondo's book and everything else, if James Fox is coordinating and collaborating with people, said, look, Lou's book's coming out here, my movie's coming out here. We'll go 1, 2, punch, and then more stuff will come out. We'll have another announcement. Potential hearings will happen. This, and this, and you could look as if it's that's the plan. Now, to jump into that gentleman's comment, which I think is sharing a frustration that we all have, is that it does seem that you'll get the, well, wait until you see. Wait until you see what's going to happen now. This is going to come out, and then they're going to talk, and then this is going to happen. And that doesn't happen. It hasn't happened thus far, at least within the last year, which is still, people are like, people who've been following this long enough, are you kidding me? The amount of stuff that we've gotten in the last year. But if you look at it, after the Grusch stuff and after the hearings and all that, by the end of the year, James Fox, Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, they all said big things were coming in January. Now, whether or not they put all their chips in the Schumer-Rounds thing happening at the end of last year, that could be potentially part of it, and other things that they ran into and other blockades that they didn't foresee, also very possible. But it does seem that the stuff that they were talking about that could happen didn't happen in January, and that it's starting to formulate and look like the game plan that they wanted to put in play is now being put in play now. Would you say that that's accurate, or could it be, it's just a lot of talk and hype of watch my movie, buy my book?
no, I think that they delayed everything because of what happened with the UAPDA in December.
Sure.
They were expecting it to pass, not fully, but not as gutted as it did. And I think that's what delayed the whole process. And then Jason Sands came forward, and that delayed the program too. I think that's what really happened, to be honest with you, because based on his track record,
Yeah.
I think James Fox has earned a little bit of, credit.
Sure.
So I think we should trust what this guy is putting out soon. And then after that 1-2 punch that you talked about, we got to talk about this damn documentary that nobody wants to reveal the names of. I heard that there's a possibility that this documentary has to do with the origins of humankind.
Wait, so you're saying that this one, that the secret one, that the director that we would know the name of is directing a documentary about, but how does that play and not come off like an Ancient Aliens thing on the History Channel?
Oh, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see, man. I have no idea what they're planning. If they do have one of these people like Mr. Sullivan, for example, in that documentary, and they talk about this stuff, the history, and because the history of people with the phenomenon has been for millennia. So if they talk about this in a more serious setting with someone high up who talks to the president, I think that could make a really significant impact, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it could. It's just I always say the same thing when it comes to documentaries. I love James Fox's documentaries. I am always looking forward to ones that are going to be, give me more information that I didn't know before, that I haven't seen before, or even the ones that have information that I've seen before. Get them out to people who start asking questions. I love that stuff. When I get to those, I say to myself, what's it going to do to push it forward, to move it forward? Could it? Absolutely. But is it? And or is it just going to be a really entertaining piece of content? That's what I want.
I was watching some old interviews Elizondo did before even he announced his book. There's one really cool one with Jimmy Church, where Jimmy is putting him through the ringer, asking him about this alleged 23-minute video that we've all heard about by this point.
Sure.
And I guess that Lou talks about it in the book.
In detail, right?
Yeah. And if hearings happen, he said on that Jimmy Church show that it would be ideal to present a video that is 23 minutes long that he's seen already, he said, during a hearing when someone is testifying, someone from the program, ideally.
I mean, that's game over, right?
Yeah.
That's game over.
That would be it.
Well, speaking of the hearings, Matt Laszlo, who's probably the best in the business when it comes to getting information from the senators about what's happening, looks like, honestly, one of the only real reporters on the ground in Washington who's actually asking these questions. Everyone else scared out of their minds. Matt's actually doing the work. He had some information from Representative Luna. Okay, so from Askapol, UAP Caucus Co-Chair Luna, we are for sure doing a UF hearing this fall, led by a new female chair. Here's the actual audio.
Hey, what's we gonna see a UAP?
Yeah, actually, we were supposed to do it before August recess, but obviously with things that have developed, so we'll hopefully get it on the books for September, October, but we're for sure doing one. Yeah. It'll be under oversight, and we have a different chairman that will be leading it up, but it'll be good.
Not Rothman this time?
No, not Gotham this time.
Why not?
Just because of the different committees for timing.
Will it be one of you all from the UAP caucus?
We will be there, but we'll have a good chairwoman.
A chairwoman?
That's all your hints for now.
All right. Appreciate you.
It's a pretty big piece of news. Pretty big piece of news. That's confirmation that it's happening, because Luna's one of the bulls when it comes to, hey, we're doing it. And you could see it you hear it in her voice. No, we're doing it. It's happening. Now, interesting to what she says is that they're really not going to be involved in it. It seemed like what she said, like the ones that were, it's going to be a new chairwoman. Gillibrand, I would assume, is who she's talking about, right?
I suppose, because she was signed on to it, to the effort of the UAPDA. I suppose it's going to be her. If it's someone else, we haven't heard anything about anybody else. So
I don't know. Get excited about that.
I thought it was weird that they said that they're not going to be in it. That was kind of weird, right?
Yes, it is, especially when they're like the major voices, and especially if it comes to where Gillibrand has been known, at least it looks like. I'm so torn with her. Because because at one point I'm like, okay, well, she's clearly playing for AARO. She talks up Sean Kirkpatrick. She talks up, she's clearly for AARO and DOD. This is someone who's been compromised. It seems I feel like that sometimes. And then the report is that she's going to be co-signing and with Schumer and Rounds, and Schumer is essentially her boss. And if Schumer says, hey, I need you to run this thing, I need you to get to the bottom of it, and this is going to be on our watch, so take it home, she'll probably do it. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. It's not confirmed that it's her, by the way. It just seems like all things are pointing that it would be her. So I don't know. How do you feel about all of this? And do you think that this will be one? Because this is something that a lot of people have said, from no matter who, senators, podcasters, whoever. You can't just do another hearing like you did last year, because that was the initial one. You can do that. You can go, people, they say, what? You can't do the say what's anymore. You got to do something like you said. Show the 20-minute video. You got to do something big. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, you got to show the goodies. It's imperative at this point. But I think that what's happening possibly with Gillibrand, because it happens in the UFO community too. There's a lot of people within the community who have reported on this, and then they get disenchanted by it, and then they start like sounding like they're more skeptical, right? And I think that a lot of people in Congress that are dealing with this have gone through that roller coaster as well. They go like, okay, this is real, we're close, blah, blah, blah. And then something happens, and then they get more skeptical, and they're like, okay, maybe it's not real, maybe it's something else, maybe it's just black tech. And I'm guessing that they're going through the same process as we are in real time, because there's a lot of people from like senators and representatives who are not in the know. Right. They just want to find out. If they were in the know, they were less like up and down with their decisions and their statements, and less there would be less of a contrast there. And I think that's probably what's happening with Gillibrand, that sometimes she seems skeptical, or maybe even part of the debunker clan, because she was with AARO and trying to support them. But what tells you that? What if she's just trying to support the people from AARO, not necessarily Kirkpatrick? Because we've heard Tim Gallaudet defending people at AARO, right? That he says there's good people in there. Like, and I I'd like to think that she's been like this because of that, because she's supporting the people in there, and she's pro-government. She's part of the government that is in power right now. So I guess that that's the role she's playing, right?
Yeah, it could be. So very interested to see, because I still hold by the idea that I think that they should wait until next year, until we have a president in play. But then again, this is all a plan in the way that they've been doing it, and they know how they want to do it. And you can actually have as bipartisan of a hearing as you did the first time, then so be it. Go for it. If you're actually going to play that as a bipartisan topic. I just don't know if they're capable of doing that. But lastly, the last story I want to talk about before we get out of here today is that as all of this is playing, and you're mentioning directors and people that we know of and names that we could potentially hear, a name that we do know of that is doing something in the UFO stuff and is not a stranger to the UFO stuff is, of course, Steven Spielberg. Well, Skyfire News has a report Steven Spielberg's upcoming UFO film is to be titled The Dish, and Josh O'Connor has joined the cast. World of Real, I guess, is who broke it, but Skyfire News posting this tweet. The Dish. What do we make of that? Do we make, like, in my hopefulness, because I feel that Steven Spielberg is way more in the know than most people, and that he's got close contacts, and whether it's Schumer and Rounds or whoever, I wouldn't be surprised. And all the people that he's dealt with in his past, that he knows that more information is coming, and he knows more things are coming, because we've talked about this. If he does a movie about this stuff, and it's completely irrelevant from, let's say hypothetically, let's go the full fantasy route here. Let's say next year or whenever this name pops out of the woodwork and says, hey, guess what? Other beings are real. They've been here forever. They have technology. Humans are capable of this. And then Steven Spielberg does a movie in a year and a half that says, well, what if aliens did this? Like, tell us about what they're doing now. You know what I mean? Like, so my question is, the dish, that means who's dishing out information? Who's dishing out this? Is it a news program? What is it? Is it the search for the truth? That's what I hope this movie's about. I'm making all of this up, but when you hear the dish, do you feel the same thing, or is it on the nose? It's a dish flying around in the sky.
The first thing I thought about when I heard the name was a petri dish.
Yeah.
And that makes me think about all of this talk that's been happening throughout decades about old alien civilizations tampering with human DNA, because we have been a petri dish for a long time. The panspermia hypothesis basically talks about that dust from the cosmos came to Earth, and that had organisms that had life in it, and that's how we came about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes me it makes me think of that, because if Spielberg was going to talk about something as profound as it's been talked about in multiple books like Jacques Vallée, John Keel, the new Secret Machines books that talk about this too, I would guess that probably Steven Spielberg wants to have his take on this whole old civilizations and hybridization of humans.
Didn't he kind of do that in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull? As bad as that movie
A
was?
little bit, yeah. He didn't take the alien route that much.
He
but
did
yeah,
at the end, didn't he?
Yeah, the skulls, yeah.
No, the end. Don't other beings show up at the end of that movie?
I didn't really like that movie though.
Well, I didn't like it either, but it doesn't matter. But he still played with it. Still played with that area. But who knows? Anyway, that I'm hoping more. You know, he did that movie, The Post. That was great. It was one of his better movies, I think, in the last few years. I want to see The Post with the UFO stuff, but I think that what it's going to be more so is that it's going to be more fantastical, and I hope that it isn't. I want them to. Spielberg's got a brand new movie with Emily Blunt, and it's about disclosure. It's about this. Like that would Steven Spielberg saying this shit's real? Like that to me would do way
like
more.
All the President's Men.
Yes,
in this day and age,
that would do that to me would
be great.
That would do so much more than just there's another disc flying around in the world and it's a great fun Steven Spielberg movie. But like be part of it. Be part of like, no, this is information. These are supposed stories. These are actual things that happen. These are the, cover that thing that happened with the nukes. Like couldn't you see the 1960s nuke thing? Like Steven Spielberg recreating that, like opening the movie just to show the recreation. You go back in time just to see that particular thing, and then you fast forward present day. But you see that and people go, that was a true event. Yeah, that's a true event that people say really happened, and you get that into the public.
And UFOs in nuclear facilities the reports have been up the heavens these days, recently. So
that's one of my dream. I mean, I've always wanted to interview Steven Spielberg, always, but now for this, I mean, that's something I would love to do.
He would be the first in line, right, of your list.
Julia Roberts and then him. But
about UFOs, I can already see you
hilarious.
talking to Julia.
That's the only thing. Yeah, right. She should be in the door and out the door within 5 seconds. Either way, everybody, that's our show for today. It's UAP Tuesday, and we're excited that you were able to join us. And there's a lot of information. And is this the start, or are we going to wind up in a place where, like, hey guys, remember you were pretty hopeful last month and crickets happening, or is this truly the start of something? I'd like to thank Pavel for being here. Pavel, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Pavel Ibarra Meda on X and at Psicoactivo Podcast on YouTube.
You can also find both of those, or you can find Pavel, his YouTube channel, in the link in the description. So we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. Make sure that you go there on the Down to Earth channel. Please do that. Subscribe to both of those feeds. Leave us a good review. We're trying to build up our Spotify audience, but we're trying to get this channel to 30,000 subscribers, and we're almost there. So we hope you hit that button. We have videos that are out every Monday through Friday. Thanks again. Thank you to Pavel. Thank you to you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.